Thanks, VJ. So now we're going to hear from the front line. So I'd like to welcome up our concierge and welcome Drew Davis. Drew, as Howard mentioned, is the newest member of Davler Media. Here, take a seat. Get comfortable. Isn't that what concierge is supposed to do?
They don't let us sit.
So, Drew, the panel is yours.
All right. So I promised I won't sing. Some of you know I don't have my Yankee hat on, so you're safe. So I want to introduce this illustrious panel. All three of them are Leclerc d'Or members, so they're the best, the elite of the world in concierge. We have James Lamboglia from the Plaza and Susanne Carter from the Lowell Hotel, a fabulous boutique hotel, and George Gaffney from the Beekman Hotel downtown. These are the original influencers. We want to thank them for being the brand ambassadors to the city and greeting visitors with the key things they need to know. So we'll jump right in. The first question, guests arrive, as we've been saying, armed with all this planning they've done. Yet, when they come to your desk, what types of information are they most looking for? James?
They've done a lot of planning, but I think they still want to make sure that the choices they've made are good choices. Sometimes you can look stuff up on the internet, but it won't necessarily be good. So they want to hear from someone who is local and goes to the restaurants and shows. You want to add to that?
First of all, we have all kinds of guests. We have guests who don't plan at all. We talked about this earlier, who come and say, what can we do in New York? Of course, those are the questions. Then for us, it's important as a concierge to find out who this person is, because everybody's different. And we have to find out in a very short amount of time, which is really the essence of a concierge. But there are very different guests, and I agree with James. A lot of people just want their ideas vetted by us.
George?
Yeah. After they want to know where the bathroom is and things like that. It's my number one question I get. They want to orient themselves to the neighborhood. You know, I'm repping downtown. So a lot of tourists stay in Midtown, but when they come downtown, you know, they're particular guests. They say, oh, what's it like down here? What's the closest, you know, venue for this? What do we have in the neighborhood? They want to know what's local. So it really helps for me to know, you know, I walk the neighborhood, I know what's downtown that they can access on foot. You know, because once you got to get a car or a subway, then it's a whole different experience. So it's good to that I'm in contact with venues and the restaurants that are local, you know, below Greenwich Village and below. But yeah, like you said, they have a lot of guests pre-plan, they email, and sometimes they email ahead of time with requests. So I send them out a form sometimes of select things that might be helpful to them.
Thank you, George. So there's a vast array of experiences and things to know. How do you stay current with the best options for the guests?
So I read internet websites like Reader for the new restaurants, Time Out. I go out. Also, our team members share their experiences. So and so started a new show. They'll share that information. And also we get invited to events by City Guide. It might be a Broadway show or a new boutique that has opened or a new attraction. So those are some of the ways I am informed of new stuff.
Thanks, James. Starbucks gift card for you. Thank you. Susanne?
But I do have to say, there is a difference in experiencing a show or a venue by yourself, because that will help you to tailor the experience for our guest. So that's really important. The invites make a big difference to us.
Concierge also has regular monthly meetings, the New York City Association of Hotel Concierge. A lot of people are members of that, or corporate members too, and they come and give their pitch to what's going on to keep us informed. Concierge always talk about the invites that they've received and what they like to see. In my experience, every concierge has their own little niche or specialty. Oh, you're an expert on fine dining, or he's an expert on theater or immersion or something like that. And they share with each other their experiences across when they're working at the desk. A lot of times guests will tell you what's popular because they come to you and you're like, okay, you're the 10th person in the row to ask me to get them into this place or something like that. So concierges are kind of become tuned to know what the guests are into, because there's definitely a feedback. It's not just us doing research and avoid. The guests are definitely coming to us with, oh, this is the thing, okay, I know what's hot. So, and do research, of course, online.
But I also want to add that with the hot places, guests come to you, and there's only so much room in these hot places. So that's when our work really starts, where we can make suggestions with other options.
Thanks, Susanna. That brings up another point. Most of you here in the room are what we call vendors. So we have our concierge, we have the guests, vendors, which is all the retail, restaurants, museums, attractions, shows, all that stuff. So my question is, when you're doing reservations and booking tickets, how does that work today, and what's the best way the vendors can work with you to help serve that guest? James?
Well, it's great to have a liaison for a venue or someone you can call if there's an issue. I had an issue recently with Summit One Vanderbilt. We recommended it's one of the best new observatories, and there was a guest that wanted to go during the holidays, and I recommended it, and then we couldn't get the guest in, and I felt terrible because she's paying a very high rate, and one of our team members thought to contact Kiana, who got her in, and it was great because looking on the website, it's not available, but she was able to make that happen.
Same thing happened to me. Exactly same thing.
There you go. That's how it's done. Relationships.
Yes.
Yeah, it's relationships, it's contacts, and it's the access to the contacts. If I have a number from someone and nobody responds when I call, because usually, like you said, it's an emergency and it's really vital for us to be able to reach somebody. So that's very important to us.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing. Is a concierge always has a one of two systems that is concierge software that they use to help organize their day and their tasks, and it's very important. And there's always a contact tab where you can go and find out, okay, I hear your thing, who am I talking to? Okay, did you have that number and email on file, as opposed to, or cards, and that way you can, because that's what the guest wants. A lot of things they can do on their own, but the thing that they don't know is who to write, who to email, or who to talk to get them that thing that they can't do on their own. So they come to the concierge pleading for help, and you love to be able to say, oh, I just called so-and-so.
Making magic happen. That's what it's all about, right? Their dreams, their whole stay. Mm-hmm. So I want to, lightning rounds, since we're on the clock. So briefly, this is the most fun question. You've all dealt with many demanding guests of all types, or they just have a big wish list. Can you tell us one of your best stories of that guest and how you made it happen? James again.
I almost want to pass, but okay, come back to me. Thank you.
Okay, my favorite story is a guest who came to the desk and said, I would like to have a goat delivered to a friend in New Jersey. And we were 3 people at the desk, and everybody kind of dropped what they were doing and started to research where we could buy a goat to send it to New Jersey. So we did. We found the goat. We had it delivered to the friend. And when the goat arrived at the friend's house, it had a sign around its neck saying, from one goat to another, happy birthday. To one old goat to another, happy birthday.
Okay. Happy ending.
I remember the time I had a guest ask me to send the goat to Delaware. I'm joking. I remember I was working at the Waldorf, and there was a guest there who, she called me and she said, I want you to come to my room and set up rose petals and chocolates and candles on the tub so that we can have a romantic bath, you know, with my husband and everything like that. I'm like, oh, great, great. What time are you going to be back in your room? No, we're in the room now. He's having room service in the other room. Can you come there while we're in the room and set up the thing? It'll be a surprise to him. I'm like, well, it'll blow the surprise when I show up with rose petals and chocolates and everything. Yeah. Can you figure it out? What if there was like a plumbing issue and you came with the engineer and set it up? I'm like, well, why would it cost? Okay, sure. And I came up there, knocked on their door. They opened the door, they were having dinner, and I was like, you have a plumbing issue? Like, you know, and I had my stuff. I went in there with the engineer. He just waited around while I did the whole thing, and oh, looks like you're all fixed up here. But I don't know if he really figured it out or if it was like he understood, but that was like a bizarre situation.
Thank you.
But we got away with it, maybe.
Thank you, James.
We've had sometimes very special guests that want unique experiences for their family. They don't want the normal stuff, like they don't want to do a cruise, they don't want to go to a museum. So they'll want more like anything they haven't thought of, like maybe a dumpling making class or a hip hop class for their children. So we've had to get creative. These guests are Saudi royals. They just don't want anything that's normal. They want it to be private and they want it to be unique. So we get creative. And yeah, we've reached out to schools or, cooking schools or dance schools, different things like that to make stuff happen. But you have to brainstorm.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Thank you for I think we have one or two questions from the audience for this illustrious panel.
I have a question. Oh,
Wait,
sorry.
what?
Go ahead.
Ladies first.
Oh, okay. Love the stories. Can you guys share more, like maybe in your monthly meet up and share with the industry? We love to hear things that guests are looking for. Gold story, amazing. So shout out to you guys. Coming from the hotel world, I also have so many great stories from guests. But thank you for sharing. If you guys can share more, like maybe throughout the year, that would be lovely to hear.
I remember a guest asked, when I do a lot of engagements too, because people love the Beekman. It's a very old hotel. They get engaged there. It's very vital because you don't want to set up something in advance when he doesn't propose yet or this or that. You could your future is in my hands. You're gonna tell the story for the rest of your life. And then once guest had enlisted us to make a scavenger hunt in the hotel with his intended fiance to get a note here and then to go to the basement and find another note and then a special menu. And on the bottom of the menu, we had to create a menu where there's a special drink that he ordered, and it was a whole elaborate thing. So it took a lot of coordinations. I felt like I was in the Pentagon. But in the end, you get that story and they come back every year and you love to do it.
Thank you, George. That's a good one. Vincent.
Is that Ed's Goats on 34th?
We'll talk later. Yeah. I wanted to add something. It's funny because when we start telling stories like this, it sparks yet another and another story. But talking about sharing these stories, I was amiss to say, if you have anything new happening in your venues, attractions, and stores, please share it with us, because that's something that's a seller for you. If we know what's going on in your venue, we're much more informed and we can sell much better.
And City Guide is great for that too. I hand it out over the desk. Somebody wants to know, what are the shows like? What are this and that? Oh, here, I could describe it for you, but here's such an array of everything, and I go through with them on the other side with a pencil. It's like, I've seen this. This one is like really hot, and we star it, and they'd walk away with it, and they look at City Guide with my notes, and that's kind of how I do it.
Thank you, George. Wait, I think we have two more.
If a show is sold out and you need to get tickets for a guest, what, other than calling the person people that you know in attractions, what do you do?
If a show is sold out, well, I don't know. I work with a broker. They seem to almost find a ticket to anything because they go with third markets too, and they can do it. If it's like on rare occasions, like there is nothing for this show, I tell them, and we go maybe with choice number 2. That's my thing.
Yeah, that's part of the magic is, and I've heard that about in preparing the panel, we talked about some of these things, and one thing that came up, which is good for you all to know, is, like you say, sometimes there's nothing. Ticket broker, nobody, you know the theater people, it's really sold out. That's where it comes into, they asked for this, but this is something else you'll like. So alternates. So wait, what?
This is like a kind of a two-pronged question. It's, is there an average age of people that do feel comfortable coming to you with a question? Like, is it generally like this age to this range? And then is there a general age of person that you notice does not come to you?
I would say no. It's really very, I think it's a personal thing. I don't think it's an age question. I think I can speak to for everyone here. We have all kinds of guests.
Yeah, the age determines what they ask, maybe. You know, if it's the 21-year-old girls that are like, can you get me into this or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know, because I can't. Or if it's older, they're maybe looking for a different experience, museums or something. So everybody has something to ask, right?
Thank you, George. I think we're heading into the break, and you can ask, you'll see them, and you can ask them questions at the break. David, you take it from here. Thank them all for a round of
Yes, let's
applause.
give them a big round of applause. So George, Susanna, James, thank you, and Drew, thank you. So we are going to break, chat with people, get some water, get some coffee. Be back here at 10:15, please. We still have a lot to go in this afternoon. Later this